We are in an era now where wellness is everywhere. Wellness is everywhere. There's literally on my feed constantly on social media, random influencers with no scientific background saying this probiotic, so those beneficial bacteria we eat, this probiotic is the best. I know it's the best. You have to take it.
Which is so dangerous.
It's so dangerous. This is something which is a very interesting topic, is that the wellness field has like no control on it. You can really make like so many claims, and that's what people are doing. People are making so many claims without evidence.
Hi, Devon.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited, mostly because we're going to talk about my favorite subjects, which are wellness, biohacking, longevity, and no better person to talk about this with than a PhD microbiologist trained at Institut Pasteur.
Yes.
So could you tell me, how did you get into this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm super happy to be here. I think that it's amazing to have an opportunity to be able to discuss freely with another amazing woman as well. So I started my career in microbiology 9 years ago now, which is kind of surprising when I say that. I'm a bit shocked that 9 years have passed so far. And I went into microbiology because as a person, I'm a problem solver. I love problem solving. As a child, I loved puzzles and doing lots of things that kept me busy and out of trouble, let's say. And microbiology specifically because I'm fascinated how small things can have huge outcomes. So microbiology is the study of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi, lots of other different unicellular organisms and multicellular. And to be able to see the impact that they have in so many different levels is insane. I love it. I'm passionate, as you can tell probably.
So we have worked for several years in the lab. What did your research focus on?
So I am a gut microbiologist specialist. So I focused on the gut microbiota, which are all of those living organisms that live within your digestive tract. I focus specifically on the gut, so the intestinal tract. And we were interested in studying how these microbes, which I'll refer to as microbes, as the gut microbiota, interacted with the immune response in the gut and specifically in inflammation. So I worked on chronic inflammation and how the good and the bad bacteria, because it's not just bad bacteria that we can have making our stomach painful. We also have good beneficial bacteria that are there that do a lot of amazing processes for us. And it was to look at how the good fought the bad in the context of inflammation.
How was your experience working in a lab as a woman? Like, what's the approach in 2026 for a woman working in fashion? In science.
In science, yeah, fashion maybe. So in the lab, actually, it's kind of a paradox, let's say. So there are a lot of women, if you walk into a lab, whatever kind of lab. So I'm a microbiologist, but there are many different kind of labs that exist. And in my experience, what I've seen so far, working not just at Institut Pasteur, but also in London and in Scotland, is there are a lot of women present in the lab, but there are not many women working in the senior positions in the laboratories. So this could be linked to many different things. For example, most of the people who hold senior positions in labs are older. So maybe this was a selection for males due to previous generations and how stereotypes were in the past. But you can't really, these people with the senior positions, it's almost like you have to wait for them to retire before other people can be employed. This is how it works in the lab. In general, as a rule of thumb, in academic research, getting a permanent position is really, really difficult. So if you keep that in mind, it's really, really difficult. Then there is a layer where there's a selection for geniuses, almost. I didn't try for that one. The positions tend to be taken by men. That is what it looks like currently. I do believe this is changing, but I think it's still going to take some time before we see that, until these people with permanent positions retire, and then we see who fills their spot, whether it's women or whether it's men.
What did your typical day in the lab look like? What does it look like working in the lab?
Well, I didn't look like this, first of all. In the lab is not a very glamorous lifestyle. Let's just highlight that. What a typical day looks like is in academic research, we work like in many different industries. We work long hours and we work at least 6 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week. This is because our experiments are a sign of our progress. So sometimes something needs 2 days to grow, 3 days to grow. So you have to sacrifice your weekends sometimes to come and check on them. But a typical day looked like cycling to the lab and home. This was an essential. Thank gosh I had that. The morning kind of reset of cycling and waking up and telling myself once I arrive in the lab, I can have my first coffee. And then it would be lab coat on, sitting at the bench. Because it was a microbiology lab, we're doing all the stereotypical pipetting and streaking bacteria on agar plates. And normally there's a part that's this wet lab, so it's working with the bacteria, working also with viruses in my case. And then you also have the side that is dry lab, so it is working on the computer. I'm specialized in sequencing. So sequencing is when we take the genetic material like DNA or RNA and we read it. So we look at how all of the bases are, what does it look like, and we predict different things based on different conditions. So I would analyze this data, bioinformatics it's called, for anyone who knows what it is. And then it would be kind of planning experiments. It's constant planning in a lab. It's constant planning, analyzing what you've done. And then also, I think something that is probably not evident to a lot of people is that lab work is an extremely lonely job, actually. Like, how it looks like is you're sitting at the bench by yourself for, sometimes you're sitting for 6 hours on the same experiment, not moving, not eating, not drinking, nothing, just like pipetting and really like in the movies that you see, except the movies have some discrepancies. And it's a very lonely job to some extent. And I think that was why for me, this is something I enjoyed because it was a big challenge. Research in so many different levels, research fails constantly. Experiments fail constantly. Like 99% of your experiments fail. And you get used to a constant failure that is a really challenging task every day to keep the motivation for your experiments in these long hours and long days. So yeah, it's very lonely, and for me this was something that I'm a very sociable person. I like to talk, if you couldn't tell. And so this for me was something that was really lacking. I felt like I wasn't fully using all of my powers and skills in this kind of field.
So how long does it take for research to finish? Like how?
I don't think it ever finishes.
Yeah, I would bet like it can take months, years. It depends on the subject, I would guess.
Yes, so it completely depends on the subject that you've chosen to go to. So how it works is you have a PhD topic subject that's written down on paper, and they say, okay, we employ you for 4 years, because when you do a PhD, you're paid in France anyway, not in all countries, I believe. In France, you're paid. They sit down with the topic. They say, okay, this is going to be the question. It looks simple. Then you sit down and you start to do it. You start to do the one simple experiment that was meant to be easy, and it opens 1,000 other doors to other questions that you have to answer. My answer would be research never ends. You hope that your boss is going to allow you to stop at one point. Of course, when your contract ends, but you could, research is like literally digging. You know, it's like digging for the gold a little bit. Like I said, it fails like 99% of the time. So you're constantly digging, looking for the gold, looking for that one thing that works, which is the highest high ever. Or genuinely, when something in research actually works, I think it's the best feeling in the world, genuinely. But it's like digging for gold, looking for something that will work. And in my opinion, research never ends. Like even for now, I've left the lab, but I still have 3 publications that other people who still work there are contacting me to finish my work, and I'm lucky that they're still working on that. So it never ends.
So is that what motivates your career change? That's, you wanted, as a problem-solving person, you wanted something to a quicker solution, or?
I I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I was looking for a quick solution. I don't think I ever go for the quick solution. I like the one that challenges every aspect of your person. For me, the shift from academia to working now in the wellness field. So I've started my own brand now. It's mainly my name, to be honest, which is Dr. Devon Conti. And I have termed it for now Gut to Glow, because I think the intestine, even if I'm a little bit biased, is the center of everything. And from the inside, we glow outside. So I wanted that to be obvious in the brand. And my goal is really to make science accessible. And this was definitely a reason for which that I left the lab, because people don't know what it looks like in a lab. People don't know what we're working on. People don't know if we're making any progress. Actually, a great example of that was during the pandemic, when the general public, I understand, had a lot of comments about how fast labs were making progress. But not everything that we find is published. You know, a lot of our results, like I said, are negative results. But a negative result is still a result. So where was I going with that? So yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. So
you're not looking for quick solutions.
Yeah. So no, I wasn't looking for quick solutions. It's about motivation and going for it. But for me, something I wanted was to make science accessible to people. I wanted to share my experiences in the lab with my research, but also I wanted to do the reason I went into science, which was to help people. Genuinely, that sounds so cliche, but I'm serious. And in the lab, we are maybe contributing to something that will eventually help people in a concrete terms. I worked it was personalized therapies to combat inflammation by targeting the microbes in the gut. And it's not that it was slow, it's just that I think I wanted a more direct impact. I wanted to use my social skills to be able to talk with people, see what was going on. I'm not a clinician, I work with clinicians, but to be able to help people reach wellness goals that they have and to understand science. We are in an era now where wellness is everywhere. Wellness is everywhere. There's literally on my feed constantly on social media random influencers with no scientific background saying this probiotic, so those beneficial bacteria we eat, this probiotic is the best. I know it's the best. You have to take it.
Which is so dangerous.
It's so dangerous. This is something which is a very interesting topic, is that the wellness field has like no control on it. You can really make like so many claims, and that's what people are doing. People are making so many claims without evidence. It's crazy. Have you seen it too?
Of course. And also, yeah, you're right that we're so obsessed, especially women, about wellness and then skincare. But I think what's interesting is that we can buy so many products, but it won't help you with anything if your gut is not healthy. So I wanted to talk about skin health connected to gut health. So what's the relation there?
So yeah, you're right in that you can. I don't know how you are, but me, I love testing things. But I understand that some people don't have the time, money, or the availability to be able to test lots of different products. That's kind of where I'm coming in now with the page that I've created, because I want to test different things. But the reality is, yeah, you can apply. It's like adding perfume to I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like adding perfume to a bin. I don't know. Like if the inside content isn't healthy and good and glowing from without, like you're not going to fix everything. That being said, skincare, so the gut skin axis has been documented. There's this whole new trend now of eat your skincare, etc. This is a great movement that has greatly been criticized by a lot of dermatologists, which I understand, because again, what is missing in this field is nuance. We are missing, nuance behind the claims that we're making. You know, it's not black or white, it's somewhere in between. And there's still a lot of research that's coming out for now. So for me, it's a in and out approach. You have to feed yourself from within and go back to our roots traditionally of food as medicine and nourishing this system that carries you every day, and keeps you healthy, but still also apply skincare products where it's needed, locally, and then also in general to the body.
And also, if my understanding is correct, we all have different gut microbiome.
Yes.
So
you did research on this.
Yeah. But also when we travel, like when they say sometimes be careful in different cultures, don't eat anything. So why is that? Because we grow up with different bacteria, like different surroundings.
Yeah, we were just talking about Bali. So were you maybe referencing
Yes.
the Bali belly, the famous Bali belly that I also suffered from? So I understand. So different people have different gut microbiomes. This is linked to the fact that your microbiome, so all of these microorganisms that are growing within your gut, are different between people based on many different things, actually, but to keep it simple, based on environment, where you grow up, what kind of things you're exposed to, what you eat, also birth route, how you were born, if it was cesarean or natural birth, if you were breastfed or if you were formula fed. There are so many different things that can impact your microbiota from a child, its development, and then also in later life by the things that you're exposed to. There's also the fact that there's a genetic side as well that is starting to be studied too, linked to the microbiota. And so we can respond differently. For example, some people have intolerances to food and other people don't. Some people, I will take the example actually you just said. Sometimes we travel to different cultures and we are sick, okay? But natives are maybe have never been sick by this, or maybe once and a long time ago, whatever. This is because what we eat, the environment we're exposed to, there are microorganisms in the soil, which goes into the fruit and the vegetables, they're in the water, everything. So what you're exposed to shapes so much your microbiota, and then your microbiota then shapes the response that you have to food, to environment. It's a never-ending loop.
How long does it take to change your microbiota? So if you move to another country, how long would it take for microbiota change? Can it change?
Yes, your microbiota continues to change throughout life. So it's not a specific time, I would say. I don't think it's good to have a specific time scale that it changes. Definitely 6 weeks. For me, if someone says to me that they were trying out a probiotic, I would always say, at least 6 weeks before you start to assess your symptoms and how you feel. But to fully adjust to a culture, I think it would take multiple months, but we don't have a specific time that it adapts. But a very interesting thing that actually I observed with that through a friend, I have a friend of mine who's from Vietnam who moved to Paris, and she was sick all the time. But like all the time, every couple of weeks she was sick. And we thought as well that this was somewhat linked to the fact that she was eating new things. She was lacking a certain temperature and external environments. And she actually did one of those tests of her microbiome and saw that it was leaning more towards bacteria that were promoting inflammation. And so inflammation is part of the immune response, and then your defenses to outside organisms, or the flu, like the flu that's circulating in Paris right now. So I think that it totally depends, and it's very individualized.
So you were just talking about inflammation. What are the main causes of inflammation?
Wow. So where to begin with this one? Inflammation, first of all, is an umbrella term. There are so many different ways of characterizing inflammation. So if we are specific and we talk about gut inflammation, this can be acute. So it means it's short-lived. Maybe, for example, you had an intolerance to a food and it caused a reaction and you were having discomfort or bloating or going to the bathroom more regularly. Or you can have chronic inflammation, which is it's a long duration of time. And your question was, what causes it?
Yes, what are the main causes?
So the inflammatory response is your own immune system trying to protect you, okay? So when you get sick, you can have an inflammatory response, and it's your body trying to fight this pathogen. So if we say specific to what I studied specific antibiotic-resistant bacteria that were consumed through food So they were attached to food or some kind of water or whatever. And what they did is these bacteria, we studied their response with the immune signaling. And so what they do, they're super cheeky, let's say. They tell the immune system to react because something's going on, and then they try and hide themselves and everything, and they hide from the immune cells that are trying to kill them. And they can also maintain an inflammatory response. So it can be partly linked to bacteria, which was my study. And what is so tricky with this is when you have antibiotic resistant bacteria, that means they are resistant to antibiotics. So the current available treatments are very limited. So that's what we were doing. We were trying to develop therapies that were targeting specifically these ultra resistant bacteria.
Because also inflammation is linked to some very difficult health problems.
Yes. So inflammation can start in the gut, and then it really expands all over the body because it's a constant reaction of the immune system, which isn't just localized in the gut. It can also be all over the body. And it's really, it's a huge problem when you have chronic inflammation. And this is why a lot of people confuse like regular bloating or something or discomfort with this kind of chronic inflammation. But chronic inflammation in general is inflammatory bowel disorder, Crohn's disease. It's diseases that are really treated within the hospital. But you can have very low level background chronic inflammation that is coming through intolerances with foods that you eat, for example. It's really multi-level, and that's why I always suggest if people really are regularly suffering from intestinal problems that they go to see a doctor and they do blood work to see if it's an infection, to see if it's a disease, like a genetic disease that is coming or has been acquired, or they have a food intolerance, or some kind of other allergens that are present. It can be an umbrella of so many things, and really concentrating on specifically what is the cause is very difficult. That's why research never ends, like you said.
So the inflammation comes from food allergies.
Food allergies, bacteria, hormonal dysregulation, genetics, so many things. It's a really umbrella term, and it's a limitation in research to be able to really fine-tune the study of inflammation, because it's really a panel of so many different reactions.
So is that why also not everyone reacts the same way to a diet?
Yes.
Okay.
So not everyone responds the same way to diet, linked in part to your microbiota, which is individualized. So your microbiota, like I said, changes with time and exposure and environment. And it also changes based on who you're around. So you know that people we live with regularly, and we hug and we share food and everything. You're sort of like, take the example of your partner. If you have a partner or you live with a flatmate or whatever, you can start to have very similar microbiotas by living close contact with one another. Mm-hmm. So I never tested my partner, but maybe we have the same
similar one.
Yes. So you can definitely respond differently to food. It's linked to a lot of different things. But essentially, the kind of roadmap that I give to people is imagine that the food you eat, it goes through you and out of you. But in the meantime, the bacteria's job is to break it down. So it takes the food along with the other enzymes and other things which are there. I'm simplifying it. But what the gut microbiota do is they break it down into beneficial products for themselves and also for the other cells, human cells that are there. But we have different bacteria. So, you selectively feed different groups of bacteria. That maybe sounds crazy, but you can choose within your gut whether you feed good bacteria or bad bacteria. So we say that good bacteria, they like the fiber, like the fruit and vegetables. They like food that is packed with micronutrients. And when you have more processed foods, sugary foods and things, this tends to feed more bad bacteria that are doing damage to you within your intestine. This is a kind of roadmap that I like to see, that choose who you feed and keep your diet diverse, because the more diverse you make it, the more different bacteria you're feeding at the same time. I kind of see it like a farm of different colored bacteria, and one likes to eat broccoli, one likes to eat potatoes, and you kind of feed them differently.
So the role of prebiotics is to feed the good bacteria, or is it good and bad bacteria both?
No, so prebiotics are things that feed your gut microbiota. Prebiotics, this one. Probiotics are actually adding live cultures of bacteria, viruses, sometimes fungi as well to your gut. And these are completely different but work well together. And sometimes in probiotics, you have a bit of both. You know, it depends on the one that you're taking.
So what happens to a body that doesn't have all bacteria, especially the good ones?
If you don't have, where could we go with this? So your body is completely colonized, not just in the intestines, but I mean, I'm a microbiologist, so I'm gonna nerd out here, but you tell me if I go too much in depth. Your body is like covered in microbes, like literally everywhere. And the most concentrated population is in your gut. So you will never be completely clean. You could never not have anything. We need them for so many different processes. It's not about breaking down your food. The gut also, if I focus on the gut gut bacteria also interact with your hormones. They interact with your brain. Like I think it's like 80% of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut.
Really?
That then go to your brain. The gut is literally, I'm super biased here and I love it. The gut is linked to everything. It's really, really linked to everything, and we still know nothing because it's a pretty hard region to get to, you know, with sampling and things, it's very difficult. But the gut is really linked to everything, in my opinion. And in cases where you alter these communities, like you were saying, so not sterile, like with devoid of microbes, but when you have antibiotics, and I really want to stress here that thank gosh we have antibiotics. They have saved so many lives, really. It's an amazing finding, and it was a chance finding as well, like a lot of things in science. The antibiotics, when you take them, they kill both the good and the bad at the same time. So what is essential is why you hear doctors often saying you have to finish your course of antibiotics. Because if you don't take the full dose, which is in different days, you might not kill all of the bad, but you killed the good. So if you kill all of the good and you leave some of the bad, because you didn't finish your dose, then it means the bad are going to come up faster and the good can protect you from the bad, if you see this kind of analogy.
That's why we're prone to being more sick afterwards.
Yes. So for me, I have a lot of friends around me that I'm always saying, really, you have to take care of yourself when you're on antibiotics. Most of the classes, I'm pretty sure, I'm not a clinician, but it's no alcohol. You know, you have to take it seriously. You have to really support your body during and after. So after, for me, you want the good ones to now grow up again. So like I just said, you need to feed them what they want. You know, you have to have a diverse, balanced diet. I'm not saying eat only vegetables, like just add a side of them. I'm not the person who's like eating salads every single day. We have our pleasure foods, of course. But you need to feed those good bacteria so that they come back up and they can keep you strong. Otherwise, when they're really down and really low, you will catch everything that's going around.
That's why I also heard that people being very cautious about giving probiotics to children.
Probiotics to children?
Antibiotics to children.
Antibiotics, yes. Actually, so it's very difficult. Like I was saying, your microbiota changes. So it's growing when you're a child, and then it stabilizes. So, oops. So your microbiota is growing as you're a child, and then it kind of stabilizes and changes based on your environment, what you're eating, etc. And if you give it to a child that's still developing, it can, I mean, we have no data on that. I really trust that doctors prescribe antibiotics when they need to, and really, thankfully, we have them. And I know that they don't take it lightly, and the regulations on antibiotics now are getting more and more strict, because what happens is when you give antibiotics regularly, well, I will give you an example for this rather than saying that. So what can happen when you overuse or you use too much antibiotics? An example is actually in some countries, they add antibiotics to the water to clean it, okay? And what this does is the more you add antibiotics are actually produced by bacteria themselves. It's a natural way for them to kill other bacteria, okay? The more you give antibiotics to a population of bacteria, see it like 10 different bacteria, it will happen one day that one of them is resistant, okay? So if you give it in too lightly conditions, which normally nowadays it's regulated and doesn't happen, then this one grows and now it's resistant to this antibiotic, so you can't use it. And what I was working on in the lab was this case where the bacteria were resistant to everything. They were used in cases that meant that they had found the power to resist to everything. And so it was really tricky to find treatments against them.
Okay, so we should be cautious with taking antibiotics.
We should follow the doctor's advice and really care for yourself afterwards. I am all for antibiotics, and really thankfully we have them, but you have to take care of yourself afterwards for sure.
You were talking also about the link with hormonal health.
Can we drink some water?
Yes, of course. So being obsessed with skin health, so I understood that the gut is very important for skin health, but also hormones impact skin as well. So as you told me, there's a link between gut and hormones, right?
Yes. So yeah, the studies between the gut and the skin are definitely improving for sure. The gut is also linked to hormones too, for sure. There are many different hormones that are present in the gut and signaling that goes on there. And this is definitely a field that is getting more and more interest in. And what we really need is real research on this. Like for me, I don't know what do you think of this actually? I think it's still crazy that in 2026, we still know almost nothing really about the different cycles of women. You know, like every week is a different moment. Like we are amazing as women. Like literally every week is a different hormone dose that's fueling us, and we have changes in our behavior and changes in our motivation and energy and things. And it's sure that there's a link to the microbiota as well in this point for sure. But this is something that is still not super well exploited, I would say.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting that there are so many, like today, there's, for example, there's meat packed with hormones, which also impacts women's health. And that's why, and today it's so crazy, like women, they're very mature, like after 30 years old, they still have acne because of like hormones and then the food, the processed food, which is like...
Yeah, for sure. So the processed food, the hormones in the food, I don't know personally so much about this. But if you're referring to what's happening in America, yeah, there's some crazy things going on with how they process food, and the regulations are quite scary. Yeah. But where did I want to go with that? But what did you just say?
The hormones.
Yeah, but what was the last part you said?
Like that we don't actually study the impact of meat that's packed with hormones and the link to women's health.
Yeah, like and the acne as well. So yeah, and another thing that you just said is adult acne. This is a big issue, and I have a lot of friends around me as well that have big issues with acne only as an adult. Like they had no problem as a child. And you know what is actually prescribed for that? Oral antibiotics.
I know. I took those when I was young. It's so, and I think that in France it's now forbidden.
I actually don't know. A friend of mine, I have no idea on the regulations, but for me, that alone for any skeptics is like really showing that there is a link inside and out. Like even if there's not 1,000 studies on it, you know, there is a link inside out. And I have friends of mine that this worked for them, you know, and they also changed their diet to improve the microbiota, and this helped their skin afterwards. Of course, they were still applying things topologically, but you need both. I think this is something that is really missing in the wellness space. Like I said, is nuance, but it's not all or nothing. Living well is about applying so many easy and different little habits into your everyday life that just allow you to feel better and to have more energy and to have better mood. So many different things. Like also, let's be honest, I don't know how it is for you, because another thing I have to say about the gut and the skin health that just happened to me is it was the festive period. I had a great time. I stocked myself up on chocolate. I ate everything that I normally am dosing a bit more small. My skin broke out. And for me, this is a recurring thing that happens when I'm eating more processed and sugary things, which I still continue to do. You know, you just dose it. Versus when I went back to a normal diet like I normally do, my skin went straight back to normal. And I know this isn't the case for everyone, but I think like people really underestimate food. They really do. It's being used as medicine for so long. Now we have modern medicine, thankfully, but I think people really underestimate and forget it. You know, people are too busy now and they say they're too busy, but really, how long does it take to make just a small meal? I think it's lack of knowledge, actually.
I agree. And also, what was infuriating for me, it's the lack of knowledge, like curiosity and education for people, but also for doctors. Like when I was very young and I was having acne, like doctors were just prescribing medication, not just like a quick solution, but not actually diving what's the cause, what's the problem behind it.
Yeah.
And like for me, that's why I'm so obsessed with like holistic health and like wellness, because there are so many natural things you can do to treat your body and skin from within.
Yes, I agree. I think the first thing that you should always do in a world really where there is so much marketing and a lack of expertise and a lack of proof is just slow down. I know it's hard. Like I'm a victim to this now because I work in wellness. So all of my feed and algorithm is wellness as well. I think people need to slow down and not be worried. Like, should I be taking zinc? Should I be taking magnesium? Should I be taking probiotics? Should I be taking all of these things? And it's to listen to your body, what you want and what you think your body needs. Of course, I always tell people, before you take any supplement or additional thing, go and do a blood work. Go and see your doctor, take your blood, check your markers, see what's going on, and then you move on from there. And so what I'm actually starting to do now with, I'm creating a community where I'm offering wellness consultations. So I'm not a clinician, but what I do is I work with clinicians. We look at the blood work where maybe the results are more on the low end, but not dangerous or not considered an issue, or on the higher end as well. And we try to see like how through food, supplements, and other hacks that this can be reduced. So it's like working with what looks normal, but seeing if there's maybe something that's starting underneath.
Of course.
Yeah.
So recently you hear a lot about biohacking and longevity.
Yeah.
So what actually are these terms?
So yeah, this is very trendy terms. Yeah. So longevity for me is divided into two terms. You have to consider first lifespan and then also health span. So lifespan is essentially how long you live for, okay? Whereas health span is how well you live for that period of time. So longevity is kind of the field of living better for longer. It's not anti-aging. In my opinion, anti-aging is dead. You know, we know that you can't go back. All of these like creams like reverse the signs of aging and everything. Like you can't. You can improve skin appearance, but you're never gonna go backwards in age.
Yes, of course.
The important thing for me, and when I have a lot of my friends that say like, should I take this supplement or should I take this supplement? I just say like, the goal is to live better for longer, not live longer. Like you don't want to just live longer, but live badly. You don't want to be like 100 years old and stuck to a chair because you're in bad health or natural signs of aging, of course. You want to live better for longer. And so the field of longevity is also tied to biohacking, which is really trying to make small changes to your everyday life habits, supplements, food, etc., exercise, to be able to improve your quality of life. And so my number one, though, is before anyone starts to add supplements or buy very expensive products, it's like 5 questions. Are you sleeping properly? Do you do sports or do you walk outside? Do you eat properly? Do you try and hit your nutritional goals? Are you able to reduce your stress load? And if so, like, how do you reduce your stress? That is such a hard thing to hack, but stress is like really the underlying factor of, in my opinion, all illness. For me, all illness is originating from stress.
But it's such a hard thing to control, I think, today.
So hard.
How can you actually What's the beginner-friendly way to control your stress or reduce it?
A beginner-friendly one. Okay, so I will say what I do. For me, I mean, I am not going to lie, and I post quite a lot about this on my Instagram. I feel like because I worked in academic research, I was constantly under stress, like really all the time under stress. It was a really stressful environment. And I look at pictures of myself from literally during my PhD versus now, and I don't even recognize myself because stress can impact so visibly your physical side that you don't even notice until it just like slowly kind of creeps up and builds up, and you have so many changes in your physical self. So how do I control stress now that I am away from a stressful environment, let's say? But what I did to control it when I was doing my PhD was meditation. Breath work and meditation for me during my PhD to reduce the stress was essential. It was essential. It's very hard to do, I would say, meditation. Takes a lot of practice, but really I recommend so many people to learn how to do it, because once you've hacked meditation and your breath, and it's such an easy, calming, anchoring thing to do. And really I started using YouTube. I listened to a guided meditation on YouTube for 10 minutes, and during exams, during deadlines, has helped me really to calm down. And if you can't do it, a bath with candles and a glass of champagne, like, you know, it doesn't just have to be a perfect thing. It's also about giving yourself a break, and not the more you look for perfection, and that's what we see nowadays on social media. Perfection, essential 5 things you have to do every day. Why you're not waking up at 5:30? You know, you need to work 5:30 until midnight. Like, you know, it's so stressful. And I think the number one thing to come back to are the basics, like I just said, and to be able to tap into your stress. We're faced with it. We can't just easily run away from it. So you need to be able to cope with it the best that you can. And if you can't, then find someone who can coach you through that, or have a champagne.
You were talking that's your way. You were talking about the link between gut health and brain. Is this why when we feel stress, oftentimes we feel like we have a stomach ache?
I mean, I don't think there's any direct evidence for it, but the gut and the brain are directly linked through the vagus nerve, it's called. And, you know, this just goes to show how amazing science is. No one believed that there was a link for so long. And it took so many years of research until they proved it. And then they were like, oh, yeah,
there's an actual connection.
And I think, yeah, definitely. I specifically didn't study anything to do with this specific topic. But yeah, a lot of people I know, when you're stressed out, I have swelling and I can't eat because I'm not hungry and everything. The two are linked. The gut, they say the gut is the second brain. I think it's the first brain, but...
Yeah. So what are the worst thing we can do for the gut health?
Restricting.
Like the worst enemies for gut health.
For me, the worst enemies for gut health is restriction. People who say, don't eat this, don't do that, don't do this. Like I said, for me, I think it just creates additional stress. What you should do is really go back to the basics. I'm going to keep repeating that because I hope it will come through. There isn't one thing you can do that is going to lead to a problem for your gut. Too much smoking, alcohol, all of these kind of things, of course, these are natural irritants. But if we're talking about it in a wellness context, we see a lot of things like, don't eat this, it gives you bloating, or eat this, it's going to improve your gut health. For me, it is about having a diverse diet. So I really recommend that in the UK, and I'm not sure if you have this here, we say that when you're eating, you should have 5 fruits and vegetables per day.
We have this in Poland also.
But for me, what I recommend to people is to not restrict. I think that's something really bad to do to your gut. You shouldn't restrict yourself. It's about balance, really. And just eat as diverse as possible. Don't eat the same things all the time. Keep it diverse. Keep introducing different different molecules and things, and different live bacteria to feed the gut and keep it diverse. The more diverse, normally, the more happy it is. If it's like all the same, it's not a great sign.
I actually heard about, I don't know if it's true, about some cases with like very restrictive diet, which on the paper was very healthy, but it led to death because people were eating just vegetables, like a very,
Yeah. Wait, actually, I saw something about that. Wasn't it like the egg diet or something
I
crazy
think
that came up?
there was a girl, I think she went to Bali and she was eating just one or two types of vegetables. So she was
Okay.
lacking nutritions. And
Of
I
course,
think,
it's linked to this. Like, if you are hugely restricting your body, you're not getting all of the nutrients that you need, you know, and we know most of the nutrients that you need. However, there will be other ones which are present that we're not even aware that we need. So I always say, like, eat as diverse as possible so that you, and you know, like, I'm a foodie, so I love eating. Like, I love food. Okay, I understand that people don't have time. You know, I get it. Taking time to cook a meal, and also if you're living alone, I know that that is hard to cook for just one person. I totally get that. But I think that your gut, your skin, your hormones, your mood, everything will thank you for it afterwards. We eat every day. So let's make good
of
choices.
course.
I would really like something, I think it's about consistency. It's about also a form of discipline, but also balance. You know, it's not about like I have to be perfect every day. This is not attainable for anyone. What you need to do is set up small hacks and habits that you're able to keep and that you like the outcome of. Like you can visibly see that by eating well, by sleeping well, by exercising, increase in protein intake, all of these things, I could give 100 different ones. Just pick what you want based on your own body and your blood work.
I think it's all because it's all about falling in love with staying healthy and taking care of yourself. Because when you eat well, then you actually feel better. Then you're like, oh wow, like I want to feel like this all the time. So let me just skip this.
Yeah, of course. And I think that consistency is really important. However, it is very difficult. Discipline is very discipline in your diet and working out. Like we're in January, remember?
But also too much discipline can be bad because then you just become too stressed and like
of course
perfection is never
no, it's discipline and balance. You know, for me, discipline means showing up for yourself, but in a balanced way. And it can be, you know, like, you know, actually, I'll give you like a little way that I think. When I was at university, I went to a restaurant one time with a friend of mine, his parents, and his mom is the most beautiful woman in her 50s, iconic, baddie vibes. She's like healthy. You can see she's like glowing, amazing. And I said to her, like, what is your secret? Like, what are you doing? And she told me balance. She was with us at a restaurant. We were drinking. We're at university. We're in the pub. You know, we're having pints, whatever. And I said to her, like, what do you mean balance? You know, you're drinking. I can see you've had a couple of drinks, whatever. And she said, tomorrow I will go for an hour walk and I won't feel guilty about having a good night. And I will eat something that is more balanced than chips and a beer in the pub, you know? It's also about balance.
Of course, because also imagine like you're too restrictive for yourself. Like you're disciplined, but you're not happy with, like you're living in the stress.
Exactly. So see, you see, it really is full circle. Yes. I completely agree with you. It's about being consistent with yourself, showing up for yourself. And, you know, when you have the feeling of like, oh, I just want to pig out and eat whatever, do it. But don't feel bad the next day. Just tell yourself, okay, I start again. Just say, okay, I start again tomorrow. You can start again every single day. It's not I have to wait until January 1st, like we're living this period of right now. Good job, though, to people who are starting all of their resolutions. It's very important. But you can really start again every day. And I think it's important to remember that and remove the guilt, which links us back to stress. Because stress is really, you see, it's in the core.
The full circle. So I know we all have different gut microbiome, but what are the best? What's the best food for skin and gut health?
So for me, I'm not sure if you watch the Eat Your Skincare videos on Instagram. Have you ever seen them? Eat Your Skincare videos on Instagram.
I follow so many different people, so maybe.
So there is a girl on Instagram who makes Eat Your Skincare videos, which are pretty interesting to watch and great. But I think what she doesn't explain any of the science behind it, you know. But I think that she hits the messages which are pretty clear. In that normally they say that, you know, high fiber, protein, polyphenols, omega-3s, foods that are filled with this can help with the gut-skin axis. Specifically, I won't comment on. But this kind of looks like for, you know, dark colored fruits like berries and stuff. You can also have fermented foods if you like that. I love fermented foods, and they have like really great live cultures and also molecules that come with that. So like kimchi, or in Eastern European countries, you have loads of fermented
We have
foods.
lots of that.
What is it called again? The cheese that you guys love?
It's like in the south. It's like it's
sour
called ostipki. Like,
yes,
but also we have like a lot of like cornichon and like a lot of
pickles. No, so a lot of fermented things favors live cultures and also the bacteria and the molecules. Then you can. So for me, it's really going with darker fruits like berries and things. I think are really good for your gut. I also like fermented foods, yogurts, cheeses. Then you can
really is it
well, non-pasteurized cheeses.
Okay.
You get pasteurized cheeses, of course, they don't have any live cultures, but some cheeses, yes. But not everyone reacts well to lactose. I think it depends. Then also you have your lentils as well that I would say, and also leeks. Garlic is also really gut friendly too. That's another Eastern European thing too. Actually,
it's anti-inflammatory,
yes,
right?
yes.
No, actually, for Christmas we eat like whole piece of garlic.
I have one of my really good friends is Eastern European, and she was like, wait, so my grandma was right? It is actually helping me. I was like, there's studies, so it looks like it, but do you feel better? You know, that's actually a point I would like to say is a lot of people say, but are there studies? Is it showing it for sure? And you know, research in this field, nutrition is pretty well studied, but in wellness with supplements and things, you know, we saw the whole collagen craze that's going on now with the research articles and things. I think there is another important thing to take into account is that yes, research may be limited for multiple different reasons. However, the question is, how do you feel when you're taking these things? You know, do you feel like, if we take collagen, for example, collagen isn't just for skin appearance, you know, it's also helping with your joints and your bones and your movement and things. And I think the question to always ask is, if the research article isn't necessarily saying it's hugely statistically significant, do you feel better? You know, and I think that is a very important factor to take into account.
But I think the thing with collagen is that if you keep taking it, it works. But if you stop, then I don't know if it doesn't work anymore, but you need to keep taking it. Is it correct?
So with collagen, it's kind of you would have to keep taking it, because what it's trying to do is when you age, collagen decreases naturally. The natural production of collagen decreases. So what we're trying to do there with collagen supplementation is to replenish the body's stocks and to kind of tell the body to make it itself by giving it the like building blocks that it needs. But yeah, if you don't give it the building blocks through supplements, or also you can get it through food, then no, your body is going to continue declining in collagen for sure.
Is there any type of collagen that works better? Because I heard so many different opinions between like fish collagen, meat collagen, you need to associate with vitamin C. So what's the best solution?
So collagen, what is currently agreed upon, but really collagen is a really skeptical, a lot of people are skeptical about it and have different opinions, is it's for oral intake. It's marine-based collagen, and it's hydrolyzed peptides. Okay, so
because it's smaller, right?
Yeah, and well, yes, it's smaller for sure, but collagen is a protein, and so basically, hydrolyzed peptides is like breaking it up and giving also extra things, which I won't get into detail to. But it gives the body the building blocks that it responds to, that it can absorb better, and it kind of stimulates the body to make it itself. When you add other things like vitamin C and other molecules that they say to associate with, these work as cofactors, and they're essentially helpers. They're helpers that help the body with the collagen synthesis, okay? So, yeah, I think that there are many brands that exist nowadays, and I think that really you have to go with people who have taken it themselves and that you trust, because the supplement field is very overwhelming, I would say. It's very hard to know which brand, how many times a day, how long for. Yeah, I get it. It's complicated.
And also recently we have a lot of supplements with like mushrooms, like coffee.
You don't like?
I do love, because actually I can't drink coffee. I can, like, my body doesn't take coffee very well, so I had to replace it with mushroom like coffee alternatives, and it works really well for me. But
You like it?
yeah, I do.
Amazing. So I actually am working, one of my clients is a mushroom supplement brand. And so to explain to you how it works, mushrooms have been used for hundreds and thousands of years even in ancient medicine. And they help the body respond to stress. Okay? Again, I come back to stress. It's important. We'll do a full
also
podcast the next time on
yeah.
stress. So it helps the body respond to stress, and this can be physical, emotional, or environmental. Okay? And you have different types of mushrooms, have different roles, different functions. So you normally have the morning mushrooms like cordyceps, lion's mane that you take that are helping with your focus and your stimulation and your concentration, of course. And then you have more of the nighttime ones that kind of help you to wind down, which are chaga, reishi, etc. So your question was, do they really work, or what is my opinion?
Are they good for you? Are they good for everybody?
So are you good for everyone? That's always a tricky one. I wouldn't say, yeah, try it. It's about trying as well if you're curious. So I would say that mushrooms are really interesting because, like you said, if you don't tolerate caffeine, so no coffee, tea, a little or not so much?
Yeah, I can drink tea, but I like the smell and the taste of coffee. So
it's a good, it's a good replacement. Mm-hmm. So for me, the most important thing to take into account with mushrooms is that you're very careful on where they come from. So when it comes to mushrooms, like we said, they can interact with the brain. They can also interact with your gut microbiota, again, the best, the baddies, and many other different bodily processes that they're starting to uncover now. But you have to be really careful about where they come from. So mushrooms grow in the soil. If you go with a brand that are not regularly checking the purity of the soil, you can have some issues that are coming from that. You know, if there's like toxins and things within the soil, they can be absorbed by the mushroom and then you intake them. For me, you also have to be very careful of the extraction technique of the mushroom. How do you get the mushroom coffee? Because you want it as concentrated as possible to be able to get these good benefits from it. And then also the dose, you know, it's mushrooms, they tend to work the best. Mushroom coffee tends to work the best when you take multiple times a day. And normally, I think the ranges are like 500 milligrams a day is a good base to have like these effects of focus and also sleep, depending on the mushroom. Not at the same time. So me, I like mushrooms. I take mushrooms. I'm using maple mushrooms. It's the mana system. And these are like scoochers that you like eat in the morning. And it's kind of like, they're quite sugary, but it's completely natural. It's actually just the taste of the mushroom. And I really like those.
Okay.
For me, it is a good focus as well, without the jitters, you know, that comes from coffee. I love coffee. It's not a villain, but, you know, you can be...
agitated.
Yeah, you can be a bit, overstimulated.
Is it good for gut health, coffee?
So, first of all, I will never say coffee is bad. I have Italian origin and I love coffee. Thank God we have this.
Because I feel like there are like every day there are different studies. They say like coffee is so good for you, and then the coffee it's not very good for you, so you shouldn't drink too much.
It's so funny you said that. I was literally reading one article in the car about that. Like, I think the opinion changes all the time. I think with everything, it's about balance and in not overdoing it. Like, don't have 6 coffees a day. You know, have one in the morning and then maybe one around, maybe after lunch. Some people like after lunch for the kind of afternoon loss of energy. But leave enough space before you go to bed. Like, the coffee runs for a while, even if you don't feel like the super energetic effect of it, then it's still running in your system for a while. So really space it out. But I wouldn't say no. I think if anything, it can help sometimes if you don't go to the toilet regularly. So you know, some people
don't
use
ban it.
No, I don't ban. No, it's Dr. Devon approved.
What are the other supplements besides collagen and mushrooms that you recommend?
Okay, what am I taking right now? Because actually I'm testing a lot of different things. I'm 27, so I maybe I'm coming into the lower end of the peak now of how your body is functioning, let's say. And it's not about, being worried about aging. I am very happy to age. Like we said about longevity, it's about aging well. So I'm testing a lot of different things right now. I really like the L-theanine.
I love it before going to sleep, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's different moments that you can take it. I take it with coffee, actually.
Okay.
I can't remember where I read that, but I read that it allows like a stable focus for a while. But again, like I actually don't remember this article, so it's probably not good advice. I don't want to give that as
I take it in the evening. It helps me to actually go to sleep.
Yeah, I think it depends on the moment of the day that you take it. What else am I taking at the moment? I like magnesium for sleeping. I think this really, really helps. Also with like you can get sprays as well of magnesium now too that are scented, and you like plant-based oils too, right?
Yes.
So it's not a supplement, but like I think plant-based oils are amazing. They have a lot of bioactive compounds as well that help you, and even if it's not having a direct scientifically visible effect, it has a natural calming effect by the smell that you recognize. So other than that, what supplements would I say? No, I think that I haven't fully finished a long time of a lot of supplements right now. So other than collagen, magnesium, I take vitamin D because I need to. Other than that, no, that's kind of it. Yeah. You?
I take so many. Like
Oh,
I
really?
have to take zinc for the skin.
Okay, yeah.
I take hormonal balance supplements.
Okay. Like a
that I
female,
love.
is it like a women hormone pack?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I see what
yeah.
it is.
So I take
A lot of
this.
things.
I take vitamin D also because I heard it's very good for your skin.
Yeah,
So
skin
I take
also,
this.
especially during winter months,
Yeah.
It also helps with your energy levels too, if I remember correctly.
Magnesium also, L-theanine. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Collagen,
We
yeah.
need to do a podcast on stress and supplements
Yes.
afterwards.
Thank you so much, Devon. It was such a pleasure to have you, and I'm so much more informed about the gut health. And hopefully it will help us to be a bit more conscious about what we eat and how we care about our body.
Yes, body first,
Yes.
science first. Thank you for
Thank you so
inviting.
much.